Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Doctor on Travel. In this video, we're exploring two of Ghana's most historic landmarks, Elmina Castle and Cape Coast Castle. These remarkable fortresses are not only architectural treasures but also powerful reminders of a painful chapter in human history. Join me as we discover their history, significance, and the stories they continue to tell. The Elmina Castle. Built over 540 years ago, it is the oldest European building in sub-Saharan Africa. What started as a trading post for gold quickly transformed into a central gateway for one of the most devastating chapters in human history, the transatlantic slave trade. Today, we are stepping inside Elmina Castle to uncover its history, explore its darkest secrets, and understand why this fortress still matters to the world today. To understand Elmina Castle, we have to go back to the year 1482. When Portuguese explorers landed on this coastline, the land was dominated by wealthy African states rich in mineral wealth. The Portuguese were so astounded by the sheer volume of gold available for trade that they dubbed the region Elmina, which translates to the mine, and named the surrounding territory the Gold Coast. With the permission of the local chief, the Portuguese constructed St. George of the Mine Castle. It was built using heavy stones shipped all the way from Europe. For the first 100 years, Elmina was primarily a commercial hub. Ships docked here to exchange European metals, textiles, and mirrors for Ghanaian gold, ivory, and timber. But as the 16th century progressed, global trade routes shifted dramatically.
So that's a water reservoir built by the Portuguese. So the tube was connected whenever it rains. They stored the water here for domestic use. When the Europeans came here, they never came along with their wives because they were dying out of malaria and yellow fever, to the extent that the coastal land of Africa was seen as a white man's grave. And because of that, they were abusing the women.
As we walk through the castle, we see heavy iron spheres lying on the stone floor. According to local guides and historical accounts shared at the site, these iron weights were used as a form of punishment for enslaved women who resisted the demands of colonial officers, including acts of sexual exploitation. Women who refused were sometimes forced to carry or be chained to these heavy weights for hours as a cruel means of intimidation and torture. With the colonization of the Americas, European powers demanded massive amounts of forced labor to work on cotton, sugar, and tobacco plantations. Elmina Castle shifted its trade from gold to human beings. In 1637, the Dutch captured the castle from the Portuguese and expanded it, turning it into a massive holding fortress for captured Africans. Thousands of men, women, and children were brought here from deep within the African interior, torn from their families, and forced into the castle dungeons. The conditions inside these dungeons were unimaginable. Hundreds of people were packed into dark, unventilated stone rooms with no sunlight, no beds, and no sanitation. They were held here for weeks, sometimes months, waiting for slave ships to arrive across the Atlantic. Disease was rampant, and many did not survive the wait. Throughout Elmina Castle, we saw wreaths, flowers, and heartfelt messages of remembrance placed by visitors from around the world. These offerings are quiet expressions of sorrow, respect, and regret for the immense suffering endured by millions of enslaved Africans. Many descendants of those taken from these shores visit these castles to honor their ancestors, while others come simply to pay tribute to the countless lives forever changed by the transatlantic slave trade. These simple gestures remind us that, although centuries have passed, the pain of this history is still remembered. At the end of the dungeon tour stands a narrow opening in the outer wall facing the sea. This is the infamous door of no return. Through this narrow stone portal, Enslaved Africans were pushed onto small boats and rowed out to the massive slave ships anchored in the deep waters of the ocean. Passing through this door meant leaving behind their home, their culture, their families, and their freedom forever. However, if you visit Elmina Castle today and look at the reverse side of that very same door facing the ocean, you'll see a plaque placed there in modern times. It reads, "The Door of Return." Perhaps the most jarring aspect of Elmina Castle is its physical design, a stark physical representation of inequality and power. Directly above the congested, overcrowded dungeons lay the governor's private residence and officers' quarters. Up here, the rooms were spacious, airy, and flooded with sunlight. The governor enjoyed sweeping panoramic views of the Atlantic Ocean, fine dining, and cool sea breezes, all while hundreds of suffering human beings were trapped in darkness right beneath his floorboards. Even more striking was the castle chapel, built directly in the center of the courtyard, right above the female dungeons. Religious services were held daily just feet away from the cells where captive women were imprisoned. In 1979, UNESCO designated Elmina Castle as a World Heritage Site. Today, it stands not as a celebration of conquest, but as a reminder to the world that such atrocities must never be repeated. Walking through Elmina Castle is a deeply emotional experience. It forces us to confront the darkest corners of human history, while honoring the strength of those who endured it. Our next destination is Cape Coast Castle. It is only 15 kilometers away from Elmina, but the weight you feel here is just as heavy. When you first see it, Cape Coast Castle looks stunning. Bright white walls against the deep blue Atlantic Ocean. Warm sunshine. The gentle breeze. It looks like a peaceful fortress. But under this beauty lies a dark history that changed the world forever. Millions of African men, women, and children were brought here in chains. This castle was the last place they ever saw in Africa.
The male dungeon. So we're going to take a step into the dungeon. The floor part of it is slip. So watch the steps. Take a floor the floor is deep.
Let's walk down into the dungeons. As you walk down these dark stone steps, the air instantly changes. It gets cooler, heavy, and hard to breathe. There are no large windows down here. Just tiny slits high up in the thick walls. Hundreds of people were squeezed into these underground rooms at the same time. There was no space to sit properly. No light. No clean air. People were kept in total darkness for weeks, sometimes months, waiting for ships to arrive across the sea. If you stand still and listen closely, the silence feels heavy. You realize you are standing on the very ground where innocent human beings prayed just to survive one more day.
These structures are still preserved, including this one. And this 150 years, many African captives were trafficked from here to the Americas and the Caribbean. We are currently...
Human waste, blood, vomit, food scraps, and sweat accumulated on the stone floors. Over decades of continuous use, these organic materials compressed, hardened, and fossilized into a thick, dark, soil-like layer across the original stone foundation.
And what we see right here, it is a traditional shrine or an altar, a shrine that...
Directly above these dark dungeons were bright, breezy rooms. That is where the castle officers lived and ate fine food. It is heartbreaking to imagine how people could live so comfortably right above so much suffering. Then comes the most emotional part of the tour. This dark wooden archway is known as the Door of No Return. For millions of captives, walking through this door meant saying goodbye forever. If you turn around and look at the outside of that same door today, you will see new words written above it, the Door of Return. Today, descendants of those lost ancestors travel from all over the world, from the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean, to step back through this door. They come to honor the resilience of their ancestors. They come to say, "We have returned." Cape Coast Castle is not just a historical monument. It is a place of deep memory, tears, and ultimate healing. It reminds us why we must protect human dignity and never repeat the mistakes of the past. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Elmina and Cape Coast castles. Thank you.